Hi there, welcome back to Gaining Vision. I'm Melanie. Thanks so much for clicking. To my returning subscribers, thanks for your support. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I hope you enjoy. Have you ever wanted to travel to Canada? The summer weather is here, guys, and I'm here to show you a little bit about Mississauga. But I want to have a conversation, a real heart-to-heart, the good, the bad, and the ugly about Canada. Behind me, you'll see some tall buildings, and these are some of the tallest buildings that have condos in them in Mississauga, known as the Marilyn Monroe building. It's twisted, curved, it's really quite nice. It may look nice and the weather may seem nice, but I was really surprised at some of the people I've heard from recently that have told me the truth about the experience of immigrating to Canada. And I want to tell you this because I think that unfortunately people visualize Canada as this perfect place. Now don't get me wrong, I am proud to be Canadian and I love Canada. I've been born and raised here, but I want to share with you the realities before you decide to travel or move to Canada. I'm going to let you know I am in Ontario, Canada, and that's where I'm going to be speaking from my lived experience here. And there's a lot of beautiful places across Canada that may have different situations, but I'm talking about Ontario because recently I've had the privilege to speak with a lot of immigrants who have traveled and immigrated to Canada in the last 10 years, and they shocked me at what they told me. So I think it's important for me to share some realities. So let's get to it. Now obviously if you want to travel to Canada, you can come on a visitor visa, you can come and be sponsored, you can come on a study visa. All have different wait times and things that you need to know about. So definitely do your research before coming. The other one I've heard about is when people are refugee status and they come because their countries are under war and they show up at the border without any planning. All of these different things have different qualifications, so I encourage you to check it out before you make any drastic decisions. But let's get to it, the realities. The weather. It's beautiful right now because summer in Ontario is from June to August. Some of the temperatures, 20 degrees to about 30 degrees Celsius. Sounds lovely. Today there's a nice breeze, so it's not hot and sticky. But some of the summer weather gets really humid, almost suffocating, because it's not a dry heat. It's humid and wet and sticky. Not the best for everybody unless you have air conditioning and you can get out of the heat. But on the flip side of that, although I love my summers, the winters are cold, and I'm talking cold. -10 to -30 in Ontario. And I'm not even talking about the snow. Here in Ontario, sometimes we have 10 centimeters all the way up to 30 centimeters of snow, ice. The temperatures are frigid. Unless you enjoy skiing and other winter sports, most of the winters will be spent inside in the warmth. Now again, I've been born and raised here in Ontario in the winters, and I hate them. So much so that I travel in the winter to get out of the cold. Now that's the weather, so you need to be prepared. You need to dress accordingly, so definitely do your research on what type of clothes, but also remember, the weatherman is always wrong here. You never know, it could change just like that. So please be prepared and do your research. But let's really get into the realities here. It's expensive to live in Canada. It's not cheap. The cost of living is high. On average, the minimum wage is $16 an hour. Now, of course, there's other jobs that pay more than minimum wage, but on average, a middle-class family will bring in $2,500 to $3,000 a month per person. That's if you have more than one person working. Sounds like a lot of money, but in fact, to rent a 1 to 2 bedroom condo in Mississauga, it is $2,500 a month. Now that doesn't include your cable, your food, your telephone or internet. All of these things are extra costs, and that's just to rent a place. Now, of course, you can get a bedroom in a house with other people, but really, truly, it is cheaper, but that's not necessarily the way that most people want to survive. especially if you're bringing your family here, you're thinking of the Canadian dream, coming and buying a big 4-bedroom house with lots of land. Sure, you can do that if you have $1 million to $1.5 million Canadian. Then don't forget to pay the property taxes, the electricity, the heat, air condition, and all the other bills that go along with it. Most people here in Canada have mortgages that they're paying off for 25 to 30 years. And the reality is, I traveled to South Africa this year and I was shocked. That big, beautiful 4-bedroom home in South Africa is only 80,000 Canadian. I'd much rather live in South Africa than here in a house and have debt up to my eyeballs. The reality is, most people can't afford to buy a house or even pay for rent. And in fact, here in Canada, we have a lot of people living on the streets or in shelters. Not everybody likes to live in shelters. It's not safe. So we do have a lot of homeless people here in Canada. In fact, there's many different homeless camps where people camp in the summer. And of course, many police officers are trying to break these up. It's not a pretty sight. And I want you to realize it's not as if you're going to get off the plane, come here and have something handed to you like a beautiful house. It takes a lot of time and effort in order to survive. And the reality is not many people do, including Canadians. So please do your research. Make sure you have a plan, have a lot of money saved, and find out a place that you can afford. Now that's just accommodations, but let's talk about other expenses. Transportation. Now, Mississauga or Ontario in general has a lot of different types of transportation. We have subways, we have buses, we have trains. A lot of great ways to get around, but that takes a lot of time and effort and of course money. A lot of people opt to drive because it's faster and easier. But again, let's talk reality about cost of transportation for somebody wanting to buy a car. The cars aren't cheap. We're looking at anywhere from $15,000 to $60,000 Canadian for a car. That doesn't even include gas or insurance. Let's talk reality. Gas to fill up our tank of car the tank of our car right now is $70 Canadian per week. First time drivers coming to Canada, you're going to pay a minimum of $500 in insurance a month. That's crazy, right? But it doesn't matter how many years of experience you have, this is the reality because insurance is expensive in Canada. So transportation, accommodations, are you seeing a pattern here? It's expensive to live in Canada. A lot of people don't ever buy a car. In fact, many people will walk. But again, remember those winters. The weather is cold and it's not feasible. If you have children, which probably many people do, or are looking to start a family here, you also have to factor in childcare. Because in Canada, you can't leave your children home by themselves. You need to have someone to watch them. Qualified daycare work program or babysitter or nanny, all that costs extra money. That again is going into that monthly fee that you have raised. Again, in other countries, many families have family friends or helpers that stay with the children that take care. And if you have that, that's great. But here in Canada, that's another expense. We can't just find anybody and not pay them. You need to definitely count that into your budget. Now you're sitting there going, Melanie, it's all bad. It's not all bad. We have great educational programs here. We have colleges and universities for post-secondary education, which is wonderful. But it takes a lot to get into them. They're competitive and expensive. International students have to pay more than Canadians do. But either way, it takes time and effort to get that education before it will help you get a job. And let's talk about jobs. Now, there are lots of jobs in Canada if you're willing to do manual work, warehouse work, cleaning, restaurants. Labor jobs are easy to come by, but again, they only pay minimum wage. But if you're a professional and you're looking to have a professional job, they're here, but hard to get. It is a who knows who in this world. If you know somebody, you probably can get a job. And if you are a doctor, a lawyer, accountant, or even a teacher, you've probably been told there's lots of jobs in Canada for you. And in fact, sure there are, but have they told you that you have to recertify because your qualifications are not accepted in Canada? You need to go back to school, pay money to be recertified at Canadian experience and qualifications. This blows my mind because we are short in doctors and nurses currently, but yet people that come from abroad with the certification from back home have been practicing medical doctors, nurses, teachers, and accountants cannot just go into work. I've met many people driving taxi cabs, working in restaurants and warehouses that are certified specialists, surgeons, doctors, lawyers, that are not able to perform their duties, their qualified duties here in Canada, but they need to make a living to provide for their family. They need to make sure that there's food on the table. They've been promised that they'll have a better life here in Canada, but they're not told about all the things they have to go through to get those beautiful life. Now, the healthcare, it's great. It seems like it's free, but when you come, until you're a permanent resident, you don't have access to healthcare unless you have private healthcare. Again, another cost. If you do get your healthcare card, we have great healthcare. It seems like it's free, but the wait lines are huge. People are waiting for surgeries and services, tests for months on end because there's a wait list. Because again, remember, everything seems free. Now we know the government will get it back in their taxes and things like that, so nothing is free, including the medication. For people that depend on medication, that's an extra cost. Again, there's always solutions, insurances, etc. that you can look at, but again, another money thing. I don't want you to get me wrong. Canada is a beautiful place. We have our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It's beautiful and it's a gorgeous country. But I want you to know there are some hard truths. The other is that we're always known as the polite and nice people here in Canada, and most of us are. But I want to tell you the truth. Racism exists in Canada. So many people don't think that, but it's true. But we do it in a polite, quiet way, which almost makes it worse. I see it on a daily basis. My husband experiencing it. People I know in the workplace, they are faced up against racism on a daily basis. And I didn't want that to go without being said, because I think a lot of people always think it's the States that are people who are racist, but in fact it's live and well here in Canada. Going back to our Indigenous people, our First Nations people, they still face it, and it's tragic to see how it is here in Canada. So yes, there's many perks to coming to visit or live in Canada, but I wanted to unfold and let you know the realities of what you can expect here in Canada. As I mentioned, great weather in the summer, not so good in the winter, very expensive cost of living, and definitely things to consider before you make that plan. I encourage you to visit, come and travel, check it out before you make any big decisions to come and jump to move here. A lot to think about, and I hope that I've unpacked a little bit of it. If you have any further questions, please drop them in the comments. I'd love to be able to answer what I can, but do your research and stay tuned for more videos to come. Please take a second, hit subscribe if you haven't already, hit the notification button, and like and share. Until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.